In the age of AI, in 24 hours, a lot can change, including my opinion about Auto-GPT. I left off on the last video saying that I might try some additional approaches with my example of buying an electric bicycle. In that first attempt, I gave it an open directive, hey, find me the best bike that meets these criteria. And it failed-ish. I called it a win because it did find a bike and I ended up buying that one. But it didn't complete out. It was caught in a death loop with an error. But I thought that was pretty anomalous, and it did have a lot of promise, and I was impressed with it, and that's where I left things off. Fast forward to the next day, and attempt 2.0. I called it Comparison Bot. What I wanted this to do is to take in a file with different product links that I had manually collected in the head-to-head competition last video. And I wanted Auto-GPT to go out and do some research, collect the results, and put them in a comparison table. I didn't feel like this was too big of an ask, even though this was a more generalized process where it is saying, hey, you are a comparison shopper bot. Whatever links I give you in a text file, go and compare those. I was hoping to generalize it a little bit while giving it a softball of defining the links I wanted it to draw from. So what happened was I prompted it and it took off and it read in successfully the file, which is great. I see it pulling in the links from the file. But unfortunately, it then tried to parse it and it tried to run a Python command, it looks like, and what came back is use list comprehension only if it improves readability. And this happened over and over again. Once again, Auto-GPT is beating its head on a brick wall. I really think if it can have a counter for how many times it runs the same command and then automatically break out and try a different track, that would be great. So attempt 2 was a failure. Auto-GPT got stuck in a death loop of not being able to read the links. All right, attempt 2.1. Same thing, you're a comparison bot, but this time I will format the input for you so that it is Python friendly. And of course, by me, I mean I'm going to let GPT-4 do it for me. It's at this point that I remember how slow GPT-4 can be under peak load. And let's fire this up. Yes, I will take the same configuration, please. I will let it go with 100 commands as specified. Interestingly, it looks like it is repeating the same web search. So I wonder if it's going to get hung up or if it's going to move on to the next one. It had looked like this had gotten stuck in a loop, but it's rereading the same page each time it needs to query something else. So it'll re-download a whole Amazon page just to see about specifications. Then it might re-access the whole page, breaking it apart in 9 parts, crunching it all through, just in order to get reviews. So there is definitely room for increased efficiency here. But at least it's not in a death loop. Once again, I have concerns. Here's the thought. Use Google command to find more information about the second candidate product. Now, the second candidate product is the Oncheer 350-watt mountain bike. But here it is, Google arguments, what are the specifications of a Razor E300 electric scooter? We're not looking for scooters. It's not even on the list. It must have caught a link somewhere, and now it's going down a rabbit hole. Oh, good. Now it's shopping for headphones. Brilliant. How did we even get here? I don't see headphones on here. Oh, great. Okay, now we're going to shop for a Galaxy A series. Alright, I'm going to have to shut down the experiment on this one. It has gone down a total rabbit hole. I got to regroup and see how I can direct this in a way that it will stay on task. So I canceled out of it with Control-C. Let's see what it did get in its working files. It has knowledge of Product 1's text file, a high-level single paragraph on at least it's a bike, and let's see what Product 1 has. It appears to be some of the specifications for the first link, the Anker bike. Yep, this is the one that it was looking at, so the only information it was able to gather in its files was based off of the first link before it just dove off a cliff into searching for headphones. So attempt 2.1, fail. It just plain got lost. I am in the market for headphones, so maybe it's more advanced than I thought, but right now it had the directive of just shopping for bikes. Okay, buddy, it's not easy being a general intelligence, so let's try this one more time. Welcome back. I would not like to run with the same settings. Your name is Bike Shopper Bot. You shop for bikes. This time I'm making it very explicit. This bot is an electric bicycle comparison shopper. No fiddling about trying to figure out what that means. I'll spoon feed it to you. You compare and contrast the e-bikes given to you in products.txt. There are only 3 bikes by name: the Hover 1 Instinct, the Electric XP Lite, and the Totem Victor 2. So your mission is to compare and contrast those 3 bikes given in the text file, in, may I say, a list that Python can understand. Goal number 1. Find information about each bicycle. Goal number 2, create a comparison table with a row for each bike and columns for important traits like price, motor watts, top speed, range, and customer rating. I want a matrix of products to features so I can compare them. That's what I've been looking for this whole time. Goal 3, there is none. Keep it simple. Let's try that. Let's have this run 5 operations. It's going through a lot of effort to formulate tables for displaying, which is promising for the output. I'm maybe 5 minutes or more into this process, and let me do a little race. I'm going to see if I can create what I asked for in less time than it takes Auto-GPT. And time. Took me 11 minutes. I was able to find all these specs on it and put it in this ASCII only table. This is the kind of comparison shopping info that I am looking for. From this, the Totem Victor 2 is looking like the winner of these 3. It took me 11 minutes to put it together. How is Auto-GPT doing? Well, it's in an infinite loop of trying to run some Python code to search through the file, I believe. I'm starting to sense a theme with Auto-GPT, and that is the death loop. This time around, it didn't even attempt to search the web. Let's try it one more time. It's time for the Bike Shopper Bot 2. I'm going to fix it not searching the internet by saying right in the prompt that you do internet research. Unfortunately, I do not have a recording of this run, but here's what went down. It did decide that it needed to do an internet search. Unfortunately, the Google search term literally included products.txt, the name of the file. It did not reference the contents of products.txt, so it had no idea what it was looking for. Swing and a miss, buddy. This must mean it is time for Bike Shopper Bot 3. Wherein I very much emphasized that it should get the names of the products from the local text file, products.txt. Other than that, the same instructions. So let's fire it up. So it's going to read the file. This is very promising. Yea, verily, go forward for 5 steps. One thing I've learned about dealing with autonomous agents is that they are not a real-time tool. They're definitely for use in parallel or running asynchronously, where you set it off on its mission and come back to it. Yeah, unfortunately, 6 minutes in, and it has entered yet another death loop. This is becoming a troubling habit. This is actually the second time I ran this version 3 of the e-bike shopper. Last time I had the recording paused, but what it did is that it actually got into the Google search. It read the file, got the names of the bikes, it had it right there. It searched on Google for the first one using the name and specifications, and this gave it the information it needed right away that it captured in a structure. But then the second search it did, it tried to sell me a Swagtron. I swear, Auto-GPT, brought to you by Swagtron. Look, I've went through a lot of time and a lot of effort to set up the prompts as simply and directly as possible, getting simpler and simpler, getting more and more explicit in what I wanted to do. I was able to get the results I wanted quicker, manually. Auto-GPT couldn't accomplish the mission under any amount of time, It made 128 API requests to GPT 3.5 text embedding Ada 02 and GPT-4. It used all the might of the large language models, and it wasn't able to get an answer. It went into a death loop. It went searching off on its own. It was unable to understand that when I mentioned a file, it should look in it and get the information from there. It just tried to Google it. I had better results in my previous video, giving it much more open-ended requirements. So a thought occurred to me. I want to be fair. Maybe my temperature setting is causing problems on it. By default, the temperature is set to 0 in the ENV configuration. This is the temperature that will be used by OpenAI. So what I did is I turned it up to 0.4, which is just at the lower end of medium temperature, sometimes equated to creativity. So let's rerun Bike Shopper Bot 3 just like I had it before with temperature of 0.4. And I did confirm that the workspace was empty. First thing it's doing is a Google search for the first item. And once again, it is condensing that information really well on the second step. But it looks like it is going after the second product in the file this time around. Uh-oh. So once again, for some reason, Auto-GPT is doing its own thing and going after products that I didn't ask for. My theory is that it's getting confused by links returned from the Google search because it hasn't gone to any website other than hitting Google to find out more information. I am going to let this run if it can complete. I'm curious if it can compile all the results into the table as I requested. I am going to say that I don't think temperature played a part in the process right now. We're getting the same failure mode as before, going after random items. I just scrolled back to review where it got off track. I legitimately don't know how it got it in its head to go after the Rad Rover. This is the Google search result from the successful second item that it picked up. The text returned from the search doesn't contain that keyword. I was considering stopping the process, but then I realized that the input also allows you to provide plain text guidance. So I said stop searching and compile the results. I wanted to move on from this exploration phase and try and generate the output table. So with my feedback, it looks like it's going to try and go through the plain text files it used and compile them. This thing's in a death loop. It's trying to go after the files and it thinks they have an _specs extension on them, but they do not. If I look at the output, once again, it gets partly there. Unfortunately, this is another failed attempt. So getting to some of the results, on the API usage front, there were a surprising number of calls yet again, 236. This is far lower than what I had last time, but this is mostly due to the fact that Auto-GPT got tripped up so many times and couldn't even get to the point where it was utilizing the LLM. All in all, no big financial loss. It cost about 86 cents. This is with using GPT 3.5 Turbo for most of it and text embedding Ada 002. But the failure today really can't be blamed on lack of smarts. I have the key for GPT-4. It used the API with GPT-4 and it still did poorly. In summary, did Auto-GPT understand the assignment? No. While I got partial results in my previous video, today what we're looking for is some sort of completion with better prompting under better circumstances, and that just didn't happen. The system failed. Even when the pool of candidates was limited, the system got off track searching for random items. It wasn't able to read the plain text file either because it wasn't formatted for Python or because it was confused by the file names that it created. And with the theme of the day, it would usually get stuck with some sort of death loop. I have yet to see Auto-GPT complete with a successful run, let alone outputting the result I requested. My takeaways from the experiments today: I don't know, man. Maybe you can do better. Please let me know in the comments if you have some magic prompt setup that is getting you results with Auto-GPT. Perhaps you could micromanage the system through the input field instead of just blindly saying, yes, go about your next business. It really defeats the purpose to constantly have to babysit this, especially when it takes so long to respond. This is not a real-time tool. As I mentioned before, this is using GPT-4. It is not a lack of state-of-the-art technology. What's my bottom line? Autonomous agents are very promising. I'm excited to continue experimenting with this, but at least in AutoGPT's case, it's just not ready for use in real scenarios by real people right now. But I'm not giving up. I will apply some of these test cases to other autonomous agents, God Mode, Baby AGI, Teenage AGI, Jarvis, and I think this really speaks to a hole in the market for more targeted autonomous agents. For example, a dedicated shopping bot that I was trying to create with my prompting. Additionally, I'm going to look for examples where people have successfully deployed AutoGPT and other autonomous agents and see what these winning scenarios are. I feel like a lot of people are excited about it, as am I, but don't thoroughly run the systems through the ringer and see what the output is. When you dig deeper, you start to see some of the limitations. The upside to this being, it's an open system. When you identify those limitations, or dare I say opportunities, you can do something about them and make this whole system better. I welcome your input, and if you have anything that you want me to test out, give me a heads up.